This is Karl Walinskas of Smart Company Growth.
And I'm Phil Montero from theanywhereoffice.com.
Phil, it's great visiting with you again, and I'm happy to be chatting with you this morning and excited to be talking about this concept of masterminding or creating a mastermind group.
Yeah, Karl and I have both found that this is a strategy and a tool, mastermind groups and connecting with other like-minded individuals. That's really, and I think that's how we got started talking about this. It's something that's really helped us both grow our businesses and really start to think out of the box. And it's kind of what Karl and I provide for each other a lot. I think is that same kind of sounding board. But when you start working with it with a larger group and doing it, it really has the dynamic to drastically change the way you run your business and how ideas flow, I think. Don't you agree, Karl?
Yeah, I would. And let's talk a little bit about how small business owners operate, because you're one, I'm one,
Sure.
and I've had the pleasure of and the good fortune to work with hundreds. And you know, with a small business, you wear all these different hats. You're the chief cook and bottle washer. You're the marketing guy. You're the accounting guy. You do the books. You sweep the floors. You have to make the product, and you have to deliver the product. You got to deal with customers. You have to deal with returns. It gets overwhelming. And now, in the world of social media and all these other things that everybody says you're supposed to do, there's just all that much more information that you're trying to manage. One of the drawbacks that I've seen with this, with small businesses, is you tend to sort of get trapped in your own literal business myopia, where you are trapped in your own world, and the only inputs that you get into how to make things right, because they're the easiest to come from,
Sure.
are from your own employees.
Yep.
And from maybe your own board of directors, if you have one, and people with inside your business, and that's not always good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that. It's so easy to get so caught up in the day-to-day of what's going on that you lose that connection. I think a lot of times when you're first starting your business, you may connect with people like that, but then as the business gets going and you start to get more bogged down with all of the steps involved, as you said, with running the business and wearing so many different hats. And as your business grows, a lot of times you can outsource some of that stuff, but I do think it becomes a problem where you do kind of get siloed away that way. And that's really one of the reasons why getting involved with a mastermind group can be something that dynamically changes your business and really kind of frees your mind and frees up some of your time to think other ways.
It's interesting the way you put it. I like your verb there that you just created, siloed away. The way you put it, but you know, the diversity of inputs that comes from interacting with other business professionals of like mind that aren't necessarily in your industry, in your vertical market, or maybe even in your horizontal function, but usually it's more a case of vertical markets, is one of the things that when we start off early on, we look for to build the business. And then as the business grows, we have these success problems, and you tend to get in a situation where that's the first thing that you shut down, that you don't make time for. And some of the very things that made us successful to start with, we find out that we don't have a good semblance or a good idea of what the right thing to do is, because we're getting all of our inputs from inside. And that's one of the benefits of the mastermind concept.
Yeah, I agree. So why don't we take a look at the four main advantages that masterminding and being part of a mastermind group can provide for small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Phil, we talk about the four benefits of mastermind groups. Masterminding is a verb I'll come up with, and one of the first ones, and probably maybe the most predominant one, is called collective intelligence. Collective intelligence is a term that was coined by Napoleon Hill. I believe it was in the 1920s when he studied Andrew Carnegie. And he wrote it in this little book that I pulled out, this Think and Grow Rich, which is a by now famous book.
You mean this famous book?
That famous book, right. And a lot of small business owners have got this book, Think and Grow Rich. And if you don't, you can get a copy of a PDF version of it on our site for free. But Think and Grow Rich introduced this concept of collective intelligence, which just means that the sum of the parts the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before. I mean, if two heads are better than one, then, what's the advantage of having 10 or 15 heads? Other than having a strange-looking body, it it leads itself to more information, more of a sounding board, and as you mentioned, that collective intelligence by bringing all of these people. We're all experts in different things. We've all had different experiences as small business owners and entrepreneurs. And I know this is something I've found to be true when I get with other people that run small businesses and we talk about things. Our shared experiences and our individual experiences that we've had really help to kind of fill in the gaps and can provide some learning from mistakes that we don't have to make ourselves, because we each make our own mistakes and hopefully learn from them. And by being able to share that with other people and bring that brainstorming and that collective intelligence together is a huge advantage, I think. And you mentioned, that a lot of times that's why you have an advisory board. But for a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs, I don't think you always have that advantage of having a formal advisory board. And I think that's one of the things that this collective intelligence and a mastermind group can provide for you.
Well, unfortunately, many times your board that you have as a small business owner is there to rubber stamp documents and to go over bylaws, oftentimes not providing the real meaty, juicy stuff that you need to actually operate the small business. One thing I'll point out about this collective intelligence is you can put 100 people in a room, and if there are 20 people in a room, and if their targets and their direction is all over the place, it's a much different thing than if you put 8 or 10 people in a room, laser-like focused on a problem that you might bring to the table and orchestrated around fixing that problem. The leverage that you get out of that is tremendous as far as new ideas, actionable execution items in order to solve problems.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's not just having the bodies or those people together, but having that focus, that facilitation, and that, whether it's solving a problem or brainstorming a new product idea or just discussing, some different issues to hash it out. I really think that's a large part of the advantage of what this brings when it's done right.
I would agree. So leveraged collective intelligence is our first benefit for small business owners of this masterminding concept.